This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we thought that we'll be talking about some points related to asset accounting today. Let's talk about certain points related to asset accounting in SAP. Let's write asset accounting. This is one of the important points, topics in your SAP FICO. Okay, here first let's try to write down configuration steps that we will have to perform in the asset accounting. Because we already discussed the basic org structure of asset accounting, the value calculations that we do in asset accounting. Now let's try to check what configurations are there in asset accounting, how we are going to define these configuration steps. Let me write configuration steps. Now we are looking at the asset accounting in S4HANA system, not in ECC. So first we'll try to understand how this is done in S4HANA system. After that, I am going to explain how this is done in ECC, what are the changes from ECC to S4HANA with respect to asset accounting. Now, to do any configuration, as we know, you need to go to SPRO. Let's go to SPRO. In this SAP reference IMG, here you will have to go to financial accounting. Under financial accounting, you have a dedicated node called asset accounting. If you open this asset accounting, you are going to find settings related to asset accounting here. This is first point. Second point, you can find exclusive asset accounting configuration node on ORFA transaction code. There is a T code called ORFA. If you go to ORFA, you will be able to see only the asset accounting related node from your display IMG. So you need not go to SPRO, you need not come to financial accounting and then navigate through here. Straight away you can come through ORFA transaction, which will straight away display your asset accounting related config. In this, you have to understand the configuration in a sequential order. Now, whenever you are performing any configuration from the IMG path, most of the settings are in the sequence. Most of the settings are in sequence. The similar sequence you have to follow to understand in a logical basis. First thing that you will be having here is organization structure. Let me click on this organization structure. I'll put this here. First thing is your organization structure. Inside the organization structure, what we are going to have. Let's open this org structure. If you open the organization structure, you are going to have first thing is copy reference chart of depreciation or depreciation areas. Let me copy this and I'll put this here. This is your first setting, which is all about your chart of depreciation. Now your entire asset accounting is based on or dependent on chart of depreciation. And this chart of depreciation is country specific, which means for every country there will be a separate chart of depreciation. No matter whether you have one company code or you have multiple company codes in a particular country, all the company codes in a particular country is going to share same chart of depreciation, because your asset accounting is a country specific legal requirement. If you have two company codes, you are not going to create two chart of depreciations. For two company codes, there will be single chart of depreciation. Okay, let's open this setting, chart of depreciation. If you click on this, you are going to get three settings within chart of depreciation. First one is your copy reference chart of depreciation. Let's copy this and I'll put this here. First one is your copy reference chart of depreciation. Now let's open this. What is there inside copy reference chart of depreciation? Let's double click on this. If you double click on this, you are not able to find a new entries icon here. If you see this, there is no option called a new entries here, which means Chart of depreciation cannot be created on your own. Chart of depreciation cannot be created on your own. You must copy chart of depreciation from one of the existing chart of depreciations. In short, for every country, SAP chart of depreciation setting. Now, whenever you are talking about asset accounting, you should always keep in your mind for which country you are going to implement or for which country you are going to configure asset accounting. Let's say we are going to implement or we are going to configure asset accounting for India country. Now you need to click on the second icon, which is copy org object, copy organization object. Click on this. When you click on this option, you are going to get a pop-up screen which is talking about copy. It is giving you from chart of depreciation to chart of depreciation. You have to copy from the existing chart of depreciation to your own chart of depreciation. Let us open the drop down list for the existing chart of account list. If you click on this list, you are going to get 3-digit alphanumeric chart of depreciation code, which is starting from 0. This 0 followed by country code will represent your SAP standard chart of depreciation. If you are implementing for India, your chart of depreciation will be 0 followed by India country code. India country code is what? IN, correct? India country code is IN. So you will have to look for 0 IN here. Scroll down until you find India here. Or you can simply do Control F, India. This is here one. Let me find next. 111 AJIN AMB ANL DAIN, not this. Let me go up only. You must find something with 0 IN. Now this is your chart of depreciation for India. Somebody edited this description as AN00, but in standard this is sample chart of depreciation India. Somebody edited this, that is why we are unable to find this in search. Now if you see, the standard chart of depreciation for every country is provided here. And if there is any particular country for which there is no standard chart of depreciation, there will be a relevant country similar to it. So from that country you are going to copy the chart of depreciation. Now why SAP provides predefined chart of depreciations for asset accounting is because asset accounting is the legal requirement. It is not that your client business requirement. This is the country specific legal requirement according to the law. So as per the respective countries accounting standards, as per the respective countries accounting law, SAP predefines all the settings in one of the chart of depreciations, which is called as SAP standard chart of depreciation, which is always represented by 0 followed by country code. So since you are defining chart of depreciation for India, you need to select 0 IN strictly. From 0 IN, you need to copy to your own chart of depreciation. This is your choice. Whatever the 4 digits that you want to create is your choice. Your chart of depreciation is 4-digit alphanumeric code. Whether you create a single digit or up to 4 digits, alphanumeric is your choice. Create according to your requirement, but it is always created 2 digits as your own identification and the other 2 digits as your country identification. So your chart of depreciation must contain IN in it. Okay, your chart of depreciation must contain IN in it. Let's say if you are defining for a company code for Dell, so I may create DEIN. So DE I am representing as Dell, IN I am representing as India. but this we will create when we are actually configuring for our company code. I am going to put TEIN. TE I am assuming as test, IN is my country. Clear? So this is called as your naming convention. Now this naming convention is strictly followed for all your chart of depreciation. If you are creating chart of depreciation for US, you are going to create TE followed by US. Similarly, if you are creating for Singapore, TE followed by SG. So this logic is what followed uniformly across all your companies. Copy this. When you click on copy, it is asking you to select transport, number ranges and addresses. Click on OK. Now on this you have to select whether you really want to transport number ranges. Normally we will not be transporting number ranges. Number ranges we are going to create according to our own requirement. So you are going to select no for number ranges. We are telling the system we do not want number ranges. Say no to it. Okay, click on OK. Now this has given a message chart of depreciation 0IN copied to TEIN, which means TEIN chart of depreciation is now created. Click on OK. Click on OK. Now if you go to completed activities tab, it is going to tell what activities are completed. It is giving only one line, only chart of depreciation is copied to TEIN. Say OK, go back. Now you are able to find a tick mark here, which means this activity is completed. Next one, specify description of chart of depreciation. Copy this and put this here. Next step, description for chart of depreciation. In this, what you are going to do, when you copied chart of depreciation from SAP standard, the same description will get copied to your company code. Now go to position. We know what is the chart of depreciation code we created. We created a TEIN, test India. Say OK. Now this one you are going to change the description. You are going to put, let's say, test chart of depreciation India. Something like this you are going to put your client name followed by chart of depreciation India. Proceed to save. This is how you are changing the description of the chart of depreciation. Come back, and here also you will find a tick mark, which means this setting is also completed. Last one is your copy delete depreciation areas. Let's double click on this. When you double click on this, it is asking you to select in which chart of depreciation you want to create depreciation areas. Make sure this is your chart of depreciation. Click on continue, and here you are able to see chart of depreciations already created here. Sorry, depreciation areas which are predefined according to standard chart of depreciation. Now in this, there are multiple depreciation areas starting from 1, 15, 20, 30, 31, 32 and so on. Now each chart of depreciation area represents your depreciation calculation method. Okay, so on what basis you are calculating, in which currency you are calculating the depreciation is represented by depreciation area. If you look at this, for everything there is something called real time. Okay, there is something called real time. The tick mark is enabled for all these real time depreciation areas. Now when you talk about real time depreciation area, you are talking about posting depreciation values into a ledger. If you want to post depreciation into a ledger, you are going to call it as real time depreciation area. If you are not going to post depreciation to a ledger, this is not called as a real time depreciation. But in S4HANA, you must create every depreciation area as a real time depreciation area. Okay, in S4HANA, every depreciation area will be a real time depreciation area. But in your ECC system, every depreciation need not be a real-time depreciation area. That is why in ECC you have something called delta depreciation. Anybody heard what is delta depreciation? Anybody heard the term delta depreciation?
Yes, sir. In
Right?
S4HANA,
In
there is no
ECC,
delta depreciation.
right. So delta depreciation is nothing but if you have different calculation logic for your depreciation, you are going to find out the difference between two depreciation calculations. Let's say in one depreciation I am calculating straight line method, on the other depreciation I am calculating declining balance method, or I may be calculating 10% one side, 15% on the other side for the same asset. If you are calculating two different type of depreciations on the same asset, the difference between the two depreciation is called as delta depreciation. This delta depreciation must be posted at the year end in your ECC system. But on your S4HANA system, there is no such delta depreciation concept because every depreciation area is treated as real-time depreciation in S4HANA system. Now, point number one, before you define this depreciation areas, we have to understand our basic organization structure. When you're talking about basic organization structure, we are talking about company code, org structure. As per or according to your company code org structure, you need to define accounting principles that we are using and currencies that we are using. Now, let's say according to our company initial setup, you are going to use two accounting principles. Let's say we'll put two accounting principles and we are using three currencies. Clear? Assuming you are going to use two accounting principles or three currencies. Let me put two only. Now, what are the two accounting principles that we were using, that we normally use if you are using Indian company?
IFRS, ICA.
SEA.
Right? You are going to use ICA, which is your Indian Companies Act. You are going to use IFRS. Now, what are the two currencies that we are going to use for a company code if you are operating in India?
INR, USD.
INR will be used for your Indian Companies Act. US dollar will be used for your IFRS. This is the point number one that you have to remember, and these settings are mandatory to perform asset accounting in S4HANA. It is not that initially you have not configured all this, later on you are adding these settings, you are going to do asset accounting, you are only going to learn configuration in asset accounting. You are not going to understand concept of asset accounting in S4HANA. Now, you need to create something called depreciation areas. Now this depreciation area is created based on a logic, based on a predefined formula. Point number one is your number of accounting principles multiplied by number of currencies. How many accounting principles we have?
2.
2. How many currencies we have?
2.
So what is 2 multiplied by 2? If you multiply 2 with 2, what is the number?
4.
4. 4.
4. 4 depreciation areas are mandatory. According to this, how many depreciation areas you need to create as mandatory depreciation areas?
4.
4 depreciation areas you need to create as mandatory. Now another point you need to write here is ledgers. Point number 3, you need to write as ledger. Now why I did not write ledger at the beginning here is, in your S4 HANA system, every accounting principle is represented by a ledger. In S4 HANA system, every accounting principle is represented by a ledger, which means if you're talking about an accounting principle, by default your accounting principle is going to bring the ledger. Okay, now how many ledgers we are going to have? We are going to have 2 ledgers. One ledger is your 0L leading, the other one is non-leading ledger. One leading ledger, one non-leading ledger you are going to have. Now according to this, you are going to create 4 depreciation areas. Now these 4 depreciation areas will be Indian Companies Act, okay, Indian Companies Act, INR, one depreciation area. Next one, Indian Companies Act, dollar, another depreciation area. Clear? Accounting principle with currency. Is this clear? Why 2? Why ICA INR, ICA dollar?
Yes, sir.
Next one, you are going to have another accounting principle, IFRS. I am going to write IFRS in INR currency, IFRS in dollar currency. Now these 4 are based on your system configuration, which are mandatory to be created in your system. These 4 are according to your system configuration. In short, according to your org structure. These 4 are mandatory. Apart from these 4, for reporting purpose, you can create as many depreciation areas as you want. Apart from this, you can create as many depreciation areas as you want. Let's say in India, you should also create depreciation, or you will also create a depreciation according to Indian Income Tax Act. Am I correct? In
Yes,
India,
sir.
according to Indian income tax, also you are going to create a depreciation. Now let's say ITA, Income Tax Act. Here also I am going to create INR. Income Tax Act, I am going to create a dollar. Now how many depreciation areas we've got now?
6.
6. Now Indian Companies Act, is this represented by any ledger?
Non-leading.
This is
Leading ledger.
represented by Indian Companies Act. Companies Act is always your non-leading ledger. Okay, IFRS is always represented by leading ledger. Now for Income Tax Act, do we normally create any ledger? We don't create any ledger for Income Tax Act. This is exclusively used for depreciation calculation for the income tax reporting purpose. So here I am going to put nil and a nil here. Clear? These depreciations are nil here. Now if you come to SAP screen, here you are getting similar options. You have book depreciation, income tax depreciation, cost depreciation, consolidated balance sheet depreciation, book depreciation in group currency, and so on. Now this is exclusively defined according to your client business requirement, according to your client reporting requirement. It is not that you have seen in standard this, you are going to create the same thing. It is not the case. You are going to discuss with your client how they are going to run their depreciation, what kind of reporting they are going to follow. Similarly, to meet their business requirement, you are going to decide how many depreciation areas you are going to create and what description you are going to put for this. Okay, now here after this you have something called real-time depreciation. For everything there is a tick mark, because in S4HANA system, every depreciation area is a real-time depreciation area. Next one, you have target group here, you have accounting principle here. Now, are we able to input something in the accounting principle? Accounting principle, is this editable field? Yes, this is editable field. If you open the list, you are able to find accounting principle here. If I drag this a little, each accounting principle is represented by a ledger group. Correct? Now what I will do, I will try to create, or I'll try to select this one. If I put this one, the moment I select this accounting principle, ledger is automatically coming here. Correct?
Yes, sir.
If I select accounting principle is automatically bringing the ledger. In short, in S4HANA system, accounting principle is a mandatory setting to be defined at the time of your baseline configuration creation. It is not something that you are going to create at the time of asset accounting practice. You must create your accounting principle at the beginning of your company code only. Right? Because you have to be very clear with your organization, your company, what you are going to do right from the beginning, which means from your baseline config onwards, so that whatever the settings we have defined at the beginning, when you come to the respective topic, respective configuration, it is easy for us to understand why we defined these settings at the beginning and how we are using these settings at this stage. Okay, accounting principle is going to represent your ledger. Now here you have assigned ledgers here. Which one is leading ledger, which one is non-leading ledger, which one has no ledger. This ledger is going to get assigned based on the accounting principle. In short, if you assign Indian Companies Act, system will automatically take non-leading ledger. If you assign IFRS, system is going to take automatically leading ledger. Next one, you have GL posting. In the GL posting, you have different options. You have 4 options. Option number 1, area does not post. Option number 2, area post in real time. Option number 3, area post depreciation only. Option number 4, area post APC immediately and a depreciation. Now in what scenarios we will be using this, we have to understand. Okay. Now whatever the depreciation areas that we are creating along with ledger, out of 6, how many depreciation areas we have along with ledger?
4, sir. 4.
Out of 6, you have 4 depreciation areas along with ledger. Now these 2 are non-leading, these 2 are leading. Any depreciation area which is represented by a ledger is always area post in real time. Okay. Any depreciation area which is coming along with the ledger is always posted in real time. Now next one, any depreciation area which is without a ledger. Any depreciation area which is without a ledger. What are we going to select? Depreciation without ledgers.
Areas does not post.
For without ledger, you are going to select area does not post. Posting is possible only with a ledger. Correct? When you are posting a transaction, it has to post either to a leading ledger or to a non-leading ledger. If you are telling that these depreciation areas do not represent any ledger, which means these depreciation areas are created only for the reporting purpose. These depreciation areas created only for the reporting purpose. Any depreciation area which is created for reporting purpose will always be created with area does not post. Is always created with area does not post. If you have a ledger, if you have another non-leading ledger, but you want to post only depreciation to the accounting. You don't want to capitalize the asset, but you want to post only depreciation values, then you will be selecting option number 3, area post depreciation only. Okay, you want to post depreciation to the ledger, then you will be selecting this, but normally we will be going ahead only with 1 and 0, because in S4HANA everything is a real-time depreciation. Either you post everything or you post nothing. If you post everything, you are going to represent that you have a ledger. If you are posting nothing, you are representing there is no ledger for it. This is exclusively used for the calculation purpose. Okay, this is one point that you have to remember. Next one, when you create the depreciation area, you can create your own depreciation area number here. Let's say if I give my depreciation area number as 1, there is no rule that you will be creating the same number here 1, 15, 20. There is no such rule. You can create your own number here, but make sure the depreciation area that you are creating is always in the ascending order or in the incremental order. If the first depreciation area is 1, second must be 15, third must be greater than 15, which is 20, next greater than 20, greater than 31, and so on. After 32, if I try to create 28, it is not going to accept. It has to be in the sequential order. Clear? When you are
Hello, sir.
creating depreciation. Yeah.
Sir, here, sorry for interrupting, but here we have the option to assigning the accounting principle here. Also in FI NSC underscore ledger, there also we have the option to assigning the ledgers to the, I mean, accounting principles to the ledgers. So what is the difference
Correct.
between these two, sir?
In the FINSC underscore ledger, whatever you are doing is called as a ledger. Now here this is called as a ledger group.
Okay.
Okay. So ledger is different. Ledger group is different.
Okay, sir, what is the
Okay.
difference between these two, group and ledger?
When you're talking about a ledger, you're talking about an individual ledger. Right? It's a single entry.
Okay.
Clear? When we're
Yes, sir.
talking about a ledger group, I can create A0, A1, A2 as one group, one ledger group. So when you're talking about a ledger group, your ledger group is always represented by 3 ledgers. But when you're talking about a ledger, ledger is always a single entry.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Another point.
Then how? Mhm. Yes, sir. Please go on.
Yeah. Another point, let's say you're going to create a new ledger. Let's say I'm going to create AL or A percentage. When I try to create this new ledger, let's say I'll click on save. Enter, enter. Now there is a information which the system is giving. What is this information?
Ledger group
When
A
you created a
percentage
ledger,
was
what system
created
had
only
created?
the ledger.
Right. Now what I created is only a ledger. The moment I created a ledger, automatically system had created a ledger group. Correct? Every ledger is by default treated as a ledger group. In the ledger group, it is your choice to maintain a single ledger or to maintain multiple ledgers. Now this is exclusively used in S4HANA to meet one requirement. Now that requirement here is Where is it? We are here. Now here this is not ledger, this is ledger group. Ledger group represents more than one ledger. Be on mute. I think it's echoing. Okay. Now, what we are trying to understand? We are trying to understand naming convention or numbering sequence for your depreciation areas. Remember, your depreciation areas should always be in the incremental order. You put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it is your choice, or you can put 1, 10, 30, 40, 50, your choice. But any number that you are creating, make sure it is in the ascending or incremental order. Point number 1. Point number 2, to get the ledger, you have to assign the accounting principle, for which accounting principle and ledger assignment must have been completed. So this setting should be completed at the beginning itself. Point number 3, you have to understand your reporting years. Reporting years in ledgers. Now we are talking about two ledgers. One is leading 0L, second one is non-leading, this is NL. Now for leading ledger, what is the reporting cycle that we are following? In short, fiscal year.
A4, Jan to December.
Leading, this is your Jan to December. And for non-leading,
April to March.
April to March. This is what we are going to follow for leading ledger and for non-leading ledger. Now, in your asset accounting, especially in S4HANA system, if you have two different fiscal years, for your ledger groups, it is not going to allow you to assign your chart of depreciation to the country, to your company code. It is straight away going to throw an error. Now, whatever the depreciation areas that you are going to assign here, whatever the ledgers that you are going to bring here, let's say for an example, let me assign, just for an example purpose, how many ledgers did we bring here? One or two? Two ledgers, correct? One is KK, the other one is 0L. In short, one leading ledger, one non-leading ledger. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, if you have this setting, when you are going to save this, it will allow you to save it. But when you try to assign this chart of depreciation to your company code, it will throw an error. It will throw an error because system has detected your ledgers are using different fiscal year variants. Now, is it fact that our ledgers are using two different fiscal years? Is that correct?
Yes.
If your ledgers are using two different fiscal years, it is not going to allow you to assign this chart of depreciation to your company code. For the reason, there are different fiscal year variants. Your S4HANA asset accounting must be represented by single fiscal year variant. Now, is this a practical business requirement to have two different fiscal years, or it is optional requirement? Is this a genuine requirement or not?
Yes, sir.
Right, this is a genuine requirement to have it. Now, to meet this kind of requirement, you have something called representative ledger. What you are going to have? You are going to have a representative ledger to meet this business requirement. Now, this representative ledger you are going to create to make sure that both leading and non-leading ledger will represent same fiscal year variant. Okay, so here what system is going to do, for these two you are going to mention leading ledger, for these two you are going to mention non-leading ledger, but instead of non-leading ledger we are going to replace with representative ledger. Instead of non-leading ledger we are going to represent representative ledger. This representative ledger is going to represent two ledgers. One is your leading ledger, the other one is non-leading ledger. This representative ledger is the combination of leading plus non-leading. Leading plus non-leading. This representative ledger is created with both leading plus non-leading. With this combination, when you create a representative ledger, and that representative ledger we are going to assign to the non-leading ledger related accounting principle, then all your accounting principles and all your depreciation areas are going to represent same fiscal year, which is your Jan to December, right? Only with this setting you are able to assign your chart of depreciation to your company code. If you are not doing this setting, if your requirement or if your company code is following two accounting principles, these two accounting principles are using two different fiscal year variants. Now if you are not using this approach, if you are not using this concept, you are not going to assign your chart of depreciation to the company code. It will straight away stop you. It will straight away stop you. If somebody is checking your experience, knowledge on your asset accounting, this is one of the points to verify that you really worked on asset accounting or not. If you are configuring asset accounting with one ledger, okay, if you are configuring asset accounting with one ledger, forget about that asset accounting. If you are configuring asset accounting with one ledger, either only leading ledger or only non-leading ledger. If anybody has done asset accounting with single ledger, please forget about that asset accounting. That is not going to be used in the real environment. Very, very rare your client is going to use a single ledger. Now those who are working must have seen in every project, in every client, you have minimum one leading ledger, one non-leading ledger, in short two ledgers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right, in every project this is quite common. You are going to have two ledgers minimum. When you know that there are two ledgers minimum, if you are configuring asset accounting with one single ledger, you are not learning asset accounting. This is one of the reasons why everybody will feel asset accounting is tough, asset accounting is difficult. Because the way you are practicing asset accounting right from the beginning is wrong. Right from the beginning, your understanding, your practical exposure to the asset accounting is wrong. That will automatically lead to confusion, to scarcity in your asset accounting. You feel uncomfortable, you feel this is very tough, right? Now this is one point that you have to keep in your mind. Never practice asset accounting with single ledger. That is a big mistake that you are doing. Even if somebody is telling you or asking a question with single ledger, ignore their doubt, nothing. You don't talk to them at all about asset accounting, because that is the dummy asset accounting which is not used anywhere. Don't even think about it, don't even talk about it, just ignore it. It is good that you do not know asset accounting than knowing asset accounting with single ledger. As simple as that. Once you are able to assign this chart of depreciation to your company code, you have learnt asset accounting 50%. Okay, if you are able to define chart of depreciation, you are able to define depreciation areas, and you are able to assign this depreciation areas to your company code, you have learnt asset accounting 50%. The remaining 50% is straightforward. The remaining 50% is straightforward based on the initial calculations that we have discussed. Remember, we had some sessions regarding asset number calculations, depreciation, net book values, profit loss.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That if you understand, you got to know another 50%, which means you are thorough with asset accounting practically. Now on the system, it is simple, straightforward. You need to perform the basic configuration steps. Everything will work out as you have worked out on your Excel sheet. Point number one, you must be in a position to create a chart of depreciation with multiple depreciation areas, multiple ledgers, multiple currencies, and then assign this depreciation areas or assign this chart of depreciation to your company code. Then you have completed your 50% of asset accounting practically. The remaining 50% is all about understanding the asset number calculations. If you are good at these two, no doubt you will be mastering asset accounting like anything. You will be full confident on any issue that you get in your asset accounting. You will be able to solve it, understand on your own. Because these are the two key elements of your asset accounting. If you want to be perfect, if you want to make sure that in your project, in your interview, you want to mention that you were working majorly on asset accounting, you can tell that. Because very less people will tell that they are good at asset accounting. Make sure you are able to project that you worked more on asset accounting in your previous projects, in your previous assignments. Okay. So in this company code, now I need one company code. In short, we need one company code to do this asset accounting settings. Okay. So I will be utilizing any one of your company codes. Those who configured more than two company codes, I will be taking their one company code, and then we will practically start this configuration from tomorrow onwards at 9 p.m. Okay. Clear? I think one of you must have created more than two company codes. Somebody created 4 company codes, right? So I'll be taking one of your company codes to configure this asset accounting. Now, did you understand whatever the points we discussed here now?
Yes, sir. I have
Right?
one doubt on
So,
this ORFA.
yeah,
So here we are going to assign 4 ledger and 4 currency, right? For the depreciation area for
correct.
ISA, ISA, INI USD. So in that screen, where we will be doing that assigning for book depreciation. So that book depreciation need to be assigned for the all the 4 one.
No, no, no. We are going to remove all this. We are going to put these things. The description is our own choice. Okay. These are coming from the standard chart of depreciation that we copied. We copied
Okay.
from 0IN to TEIN. Now what we will be doing, we will be deleting all this except one. You will delete all. Okay. Now for the first one, you are going to change the description. Indian Companies Act INR, something like this. And here you are going to put accounting principle. Let me come back. It will be like this. Then you are going to copy the first one, Indian Companies Act dollar. This will be dollar, and this will be 2.
So we need to copy only on the business book depreciation business description area.
Correct.
Okay. So here how the system will take the currency, whether it's USD, we are giving only the description, right? ISA,
Currency, there will be a
INR.
different setting.
Okay.
You will have currencies here. Now here against each depreciation area, you are going to assign the currency.
Okay. So
If it is group
here,
currency,
okay.
go ahead.
So here book depreciation, we need to assign both currency, right? USD and INR.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so for one it will be INR, for one it will be dollar. Similarly for IFRS, INR, dollar, for any depreciation area that you are going to create. So should have all the currencies in it. If you have three currencies, then you are going to repeat this third time.
Okay. So we need to copy in the screen also, like what we done on other screen for FA.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
Okay, these
So for
things we will
the
complete in
okay,
tomorrow's session.
okay,
So you are going to understand in detail, because now we are only going to understand in a generic way, because we have not picked any company code. So tomorrow I'll
yeah,
pick
okay,
up one company code, I'll maintain the settings, and I'll give the detailed config screenshots.
so okay, okay,
Okay.
yeah. Thanks.
Sir, I have a very small query.
Yes.
Sir, in this table, where we assigned Indian companies Act and INR, why do we took their non-leading ledger?
On this.
Yes, sir.
So here, when you're talking about this ICA, your ICA, which is your Indian Companies Act, according to our org structure, we are using Indian Companies Act for non-leading ledger.
Okay.
Right? You are using Indian Companies Act for non-leading ledger. Now, if you come to this setting, you will have a setting called parallel accounting. In parallel accounting, you have accounting principle, you have assigned accounting principle to ledger group. Whatever the setting that you do here will be reflected in your asset accounting. Okay, you are going to define Indian Companies Act here, which is already let's say I'll put this here, ICA, Indian Companies Act. Okay, I'll save this. Now this Indian Companies Act, let me assign this to a different ledger. Accounting principle is Indian Companies Act. Let me put this to non-leading ledger. D1. Okay, save it. Clearer? Now whenever I am talking about Indian Companies Act, I am representing non-leading ledger D1.
Yes, sir.
Now if you come to this setting, if you go to org structure, depreciation areas, if you put ICA here, Indian Companies Act is bringing ledger 01, sorry, T1.
Yes, sir.
Clearer? And here whatever the assignments you are doing will be represented there. So you have to be very conscious, you have to be very careful while defining accounting principles and mapping them to a respective ledger assignment, because everything will have a connection. So just like that, if you are creating, we will not be able to create proper asset accounting.
Sir,
Okay,
at present we are using company code DEIN, right? Dell India.
right.
According to that, should we use 0L since we are operating in India and all the entries are primarily posting in the leading ledger,
No, because we are operating in multiple countries.
right?
So if you're operating in multiple countries, your leading ledger must represent your IFRS accounting principle and then group currency. Reason, for all your company codes, you are going to maintain same chart of account, same controlling area.
Yes.
Right? In order to maintain same controlling area for all your company codes, you must ensure same chart of account, same fiscal year is across all your company codes is assigned. So this is straightforward. All your company codes are going to use IFRS and then group currency as the currency for your ledger. And for every country, there is a different accounting principle country wise.
Yes, sir.
For every country, you are going to use the different accounting principle to the same non-leading ledger. Every country is going to use D1 as non-leading ledger, but at country level, you are going to change accounting principle.
Okay, sir. Just to have a common controlling area among all the company codes, we create our group company code as a leading ledger, right?
Right. Correct.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Alright, so this is what we are going to do. In the tomorrow session, we will practically start the asset accounting configuration to ensure that we all feel comfortable with the asset accounting first. Because we already know the calculation part, we have already discussed few points now, how depreciation areas are created, how accounting principles are mapped to it. Then we will quickly complete the basic asset accounting first part config, chart of depreciation creation until assignment to your company code without any errors. And we will see all the possible errors with the solutions. What error you will get and what settings you are going to change and how you are going to define the settings to ensure you will not receive any error and your asset accounting is exactly how it is used in any real environment. Clear?
Right, sir.
Okay. All right then. So let me stop this recording.